governor's races. So, what I did, I threw red paint over a blue map. Here's what I did. I decided I was going to change the game a bit. The way that most academic research on political campaigns occurs is akin to seeing a whole bunch of really smart art critics standing around a piece of art and pontificating about its meaning, but at the same time ignoring the artist who's like standing right next to it, right? It's like, oh my God, this means this is the existential argument that man and woman face when feeling the ennui of emotional deployment, etc., etc. And the person's like, actually knows about lunch. But, I mean, you all aren't asking me, so I'm just standing here, right? And that's how most campaign work is. All these academics do all this smarty pants research, but they never actually talk to the people who run campaigns, who are campaign managers. So what my research was, is I contacted every single campaign in the United States in 2006 and in 2008, 2009. Every single person who was running for office, I got in touch with them and sent them a survey on SurveyMonkey, which you will see in a minute, asking them about key areas in campaign strategy. Okay, what did you do? How did you do it? How did it make any sense? And we got a pretty darn good response rate. I was shocked, actually. In 2006, we only had 7 people say no, and we had about 400-something people start the survey. We had, I think, 200 or so actually finish it. We had 7 no's, and they were all Republicans. I don't quite know why. And then 2008, 2009 was a bit rougher, but again, we still got over 300 people who filled it out. I will tell you this, when you call campaigns around the country, you hear some of the most entertaining stuff in the world. There was a guy who we called, and I had 2 students working for me, Evan and Tyler. I thought this was so hilarious, and they were like, you know, Professor Johnson, like, we need your help, because, you know, I taught them how to do the phone calls and everything else like that. And they said, there's this one guy who's a former Klan member who's running for Congress in Missouri. And we want you to call him. We just think it'd be really funny. I'm like, all right, cool, it's fun. So, you know, and you know, we have that kind of open relationship. You know, the red-haired kid, the brown hair matches hair. But what we learned, it was really fascinating. The guy actually knew a lot about campaigns. I mean, he had all these great theories about, you know, how campaigns should actually work. And he was like, you know, we gotta get the white man excited about, you know, white again and blah blah. Don't you understand? Yes, we understand. So we had a great time. I learned what it was to be an excited white man, I guess. So, with that being said, after I did the survey, it was a nickname. This kid gave me this nickname when I was volunteering. All right, here we go. And I did this survey of all these campaign managers and consultants all around the country, and found out a lot of things. Some of the highlights. And this is time-consuming to do. But, you know, the majority of the people, you know, they were campaigning in 2008. You know, vast majority of people who worked in campaigns have only done it for 1 to 4 years. You know, did your candidate win the general election? We had a pretty good number. 60% of winners responded, 40% of losers responded, which is good. You can learn as much from people who lose as people who win, right? Because everyone wants to say, we win because we had a great candidate. It's like, no, your other candidate got caught with a prostitute. Like, you weren't smart. They were just sloppy. We had different regions of the country, but the main thing is we looked at things like the tension between the swing voter and the base, okay? How much tension did you feel between pleasing the base and winning the swing voter? And we took an analysis as to, you know, how that felt for a lot of campaigns. And we broke that down by party. We broke that down by if you were a challenger, or you were an incumbent, or you were in an open seat, okay? We also took a look at things like, under each of the following circumstances, how likely are you to launch a negative advertising campaign against your opponent, right? And as you can see here, what drives you to start attacking somebody? Losing, yeah. When you're behind, that's when you go negative, okay? Clear sign. Anytime, and we're going to see some examples of some campaign commercials later, anytime that you see an incumbent attacking first, their internal polls show that they're about to lose, okay? You notice that Barack Obama never started attacking John McCain until McCain picked up Sarah Palin. That was the first time Obama got nervous that he may not pull off states like Ohio, that he may not pull off states like Missouri, and that's the only time he went negative. You go negative when you're behind, okay? Now, Is it just a matter of going negative? Well, no. A lot of our research also showed what kinds of negative ads. And one of the things that a lot of campaign analysis doesn't look at is there's a difference between attacking somebody on policy and attacking somebody on character. Okay? My research showed that, generally speaking, everybody stays at policy until you drop more than 7 points behind. When you drop 7 points behind, then you go after character. Again, you look at John McCain and Barack Obama in 2008. John McCain did not attack Barack Obama with the whole celebrity ad, Sarah Palin. He didn't do any of that stuff until Obama's lead and the Electoral College started to seem insurmountable. Before then, he was perfectly willing to say, hey, Obama's a liberal and he's a terrible guy. But after Obama started getting up by about 7 points, and after you start getting up by 60 or 70 Electoral College, most of the predictions, it was he's a celebrity. He's terrible. He hangs out with William Ayers. He's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. Sarah Palin's like, oh, he's a terrorist, and he's a Muslim, and did I mention he was a Muslim? All that stuff, right? All that character stuff does not come out until you're in a lot of trouble. The other thing I noticed, and the polls and some other analysis demonstrated this, is who attacks who more on policy, right? Usually, and this is a very sneaky thing for all the liberals and the conservatives out there. So, if you had to guess, which party do you think attacks on character more? Republicans or Democrats? Who do you think attacks their opponents on character more?
Republicans.
Republicans, right? Now, why? What's your name was something, I forgot your name.
Mine?
No, the gentleman behind it.
Chris?
Chris, yes, Chris. Why do you think Republicans would be more likely to attack on character than Democrats? I'm going to ask consultants. In the survey, I analyzed consultants and I said, which of these traits do you think are most important? Because what's the point of constantly asking voters when they're not the people who have to manage somebody? And then I asked a second question. I said, all right, well, there's a difference sometimes between campaigning and governing. You know, what it takes to be a good candidate and what it takes to be a good actual governor are two different things. George Bush was a brilliant campaigner. I mean, the guy was an absolute genius as a campaigner. As a governor, one of my best friends used to work for him back in Texas. This is before he actually became president of the United States. And she did like recruiting of minorities for the Republican Party in Texas. And I was like, what's this George Bush guy like? This was like 98. And she's like, Jason, on a given afternoon, around 2 o'clock, he's not in his office anymore. I was like, where is he? She's like at the mall at Orange Julius. He's just like, he's not a hard worker. He's not a hard worker. When it comes to governing, he just didn't have any interest in it. But I swear to God, you know, came to the campaign trail, he was on the grind, right? So we had to do it, you know, I decided to take a look at, you know, hey, which traits do you think are good for campaigning? Which traits do you think are good for governing? So we took a look at ambition. Every candidate has to be ambitious, right? You have to want the job. Empathy, right? How empathetic are you? Can I feel your pain? You know, that whole Bill Clinton, you know, bite your lip sort of thing, like he really cares. You know, leadership. Who's a leader and who isn't? Either got it or you don't. You can't trick people into thinking that you're a leader. Competence. How well can you do the job? How well does anyone think you can do the job? Integrity. Integrity is what you do when people aren't watching. Yeah, whatever. But do people think you're ultimately going to be honest? And then finally, what other random attributes might be of importance? So I did this whole complicated regression analysis thing.